We learned a lot from our last helicopter series, Cold Island, especially when it comes to what gear we bring on a trip like that. So in today's video, we're actually gonna do a What's in My Camera Bag Heading East edition and break down our entire photo video kit, all of the camera gear that we brought on our Heading East travel series. Link up here if you haven't watched it yet.
We talk about the gear we use to make our videos, but we're not like, oh, we're gonna review this camera. Therefore, I feel like frequent camera bag videos aren't really what we do.
Our gear and our camera bag, it's kind of the same gear, but what's in the bag changes depending on what we're shooting. So we're not really changing up our gear a lot. A lot of the gear we used last year and the year before is the same gear we're using now. But when we do series like Heading East or like short films, it's kind of fun for us to kind of deep dive into what we bring, because a lot of times we can't bring a lot of gear. So we bring select pieces. And since we did Cold Island, we've actually consolidated our entire kit to Sony. Okay, before we get into it, I want to say a huge thanks to MusicBed for sponsoring today's video.
When we first started this project, you were talking about making like, not a mood board, but like a stylescape. And you had already had a playlist made in MusicBed and had found tracks that felt like the series you wanted to create before you even had a title, before you even had a concept, but you just knew you wanted to create this essence of a project, and it really laid the groundwork and foundation for what this project is.
We just found like a number of artists that were doing really top-notch, high-quality tracks.
Yeah, like when you listen to a track and you get goosebumps, you're like, oh, you know that that's the right track.
Yeah.
You were able to kind of stay on a cohesive line of thought throughout episodes. So for example, in the first episode, some of the lyrics translated into the fifth episode. And it was I was made for this, and that was kind of like the common thread through the project.
A lot of artists on MusicBed actually include instrumental versions as well. So I was able to use bits and pieces of each and kind of mix a custom track. They have an app that's also really helpful if you are out and about and you have your playlist built. You can kind of listen to your tracks while you're out shooting or while you're on the go, and you can start picturing your edits. Thank you, MusicBed, for being a huge supporter of this channel. If you guys want to check them out, you can use our coupon code Becky and Chris at checkout for your first month free off an annual individual subscription. Their tracks have really helped bring the vision together of what we had envisioned Heading East to be.
We couldn't have done it without MusicBed.
No.
And on to What's in My Camera Bag Heading East edition.
We're not going to talk about what we like about all of this gear. We're just going to tell you what we use.
You know we like it because we opted to take it on this trip.
Yeah. First, we're going to talk about the photo and video kit, which is one kit now, not two. We are 100% Sony shooters now. We have consolidated the kit. If you want to know why we switched 100% to Sony, video is linked up here. The vessel in which we carried the photo video kit was the Peter McKinnon Nomadic Everyday Camera Bag.
And that's the smaller camera bag of Peter McKinnon's camera bags with Nomadic.
But we did take the travel bag. We'll talk about that in a minute and how we used it. Our main video setup was the Sony a7S III.
Which is what we're shooting on right now.
With the 16 to 35. We had a 2 to 5 stop Peter McKinnon Polar Pro ND filter on there, PM BND. And we used the Rode Video Micro for all of our run and gun stuff.
You don't have to worry about batteries.
When you're doing trips like this, sometimes charging things can be a real hassle.
Yes.
So the less amount of things we have to charge, the better. And I don't want to have to worry about turning on a mic, and I don't want to worry about mic batteries being dead ever. This video is not about the Rode Video Micro. It's about everything we have in the kit.
No, it's not.
So also in the bag, we had the Sony 24-70 2.8 GM. We had a Deity D4 Duo as a backup mic, just in case the Rode Video Micro broke. It's always key to have a backup mic because audio is the most important.
That's true. That's a good point.
We also brought the Rode wireless go-tos with a lapel mic. We actually brought 2 lapel mics for each go-to, and we use that for all of our interviews, our little debriefs afterwards.
This is kind of the first time that we've widely used lapel mics.
Yeah, we realized that we need new lapel mics.
Yeah, some of them kind of crackle. I think they're just old.
In the a7S III, we had ProGrade V90 cards. We also had some Sony Tough cards, and we also had a CF Express card. Every single piece of kit in this video will be linked in a blog post in the description box if you want links to any of the stuff.
We had 5 Z batteries, which we could both use in the a7S III, but also in our photo camera, which was the a7R4.
That was our main photo camera with the 24mm 1.4. The nice thing about both of these cameras, they're the only 2 cameras we took. The a7S III was a backup photo camera to the a7R4. So when we were in the helicopter, we shot photos on the a7S III. And the A7R4 was our main photo camera, but we could also shoot video on it if something had happened to the A7S3 or if we needed a behind the scenes shot. So both cameras shoots photos and videos, one better at each thing, and each was their own backup.
We also used them not out of necessity, but out of convenience. Like you had your A7S3 out, you shot some photos because you had a photo opportunity.
Right.
And vice versa. You had your A7R4, oh wait, we need to shoot a quick little clip or just a little bit of B-roll here. Use that. And we can cut interchangeably between them and you don't notice any difference.
In terms of camera straps, we had a Peak Design camera leash and we had the Peak Design Lizzie Pierce collaboration camera strap as well. In the bag, we also had the Sony 50mm 1.4. The Zeiss version. And then for the A7R, we also had Sony Tough cards. We use the same cards interchangeably between the A7S3 and the A7R4. And we had to scatter a few ProMaster cards too, which are really slow for the A7R.
Yeah, those are some older cards that we've had for a long time. And again, we just had them more or less as backup. And I think we did dip into them. So speaking of cards and data management, we made sure that every night we tried to back up all the footage or photos that we took that day using a laptop and backing up to an external hard drive. But we didn't format cards. We wanted to have enough storage space on our cards so that we didn't have to format anything. So that way we could have redundant copies of everything. We have a copy on the actual cards and we have a copy on the actual hard drive. And then when we were, say, traveling during the day, we would leave one copy in the room, the hard drive, and we would take all the cards with us on person so that if something bad happened to either site, either we got robbed or our hotel room got broken into and got robbed, we would have our footage sort of separated physically so that we would still be able to complete the series. Because you imagine going this whole trip and then having all of it just ruined because someone stole it.
We do this setup every single time we travel.
Yeah, that's kind of our standard.
Yeah. So speaking of hard drives, we did have a couple of accessories in the bag. We did have the Lacey external hard drive.
I've always called him Lakai.
Lakai.
Is it Lacey? Or
I've heard Sarah call him Lacey, so I'm not really sure. I think it was like 4 terabytes.
It's all right. I did a presentation on medieval medicine when I was in grade 6, and I was up in front of the class calling it tuberculosis.
Whoops.
And the teacher was like, "Did you mean tuberculosis?" And I'm like, maybe.
Card reader, of course, that had an SD slot on it and a micro SD slot. We'll talk about micro SDs in a minute. I had a Polar Pro card wallet that was filled with all of those cards that we just talked about. I also had a Hive notebook that Ken DeCoste sent. Thanks, Ken. It's made of like stone paper. Apparently, like it can't rip and it's like waterproof or something.
Very applicable for adventures.
Yeah, I stuck a Pete's Pirate Life sticker on there because I like the look of it. And we're using all Peter McKinnon's gear, so I thought, hey,
keep it on brand.
Keep it on brand. What I'm about to talk about next is wasn't really inside the camera bag, but it was a part of the camera kit. We're gonna make an entire video about this, but our mobile studio, shout out to Aperture for sending us the new Amaran P60C and P60X, but we just brought the P60X on this trip. So we use that as our mobile studio.
Yeah, it's basically an LED light panel, has a little pop-out softbox, is really handy, and it also uses Sony MPF batteries, which allows you to basically use it out in the field, which was helpful when we were off-grid. We could actually still do these like little studio shots. So we'll do a whole video on our mobile studio setups, but thank you, Aperture.
We also had a teeny tiny light stand. We had a makeshift reflector, and by makeshift, I mean it was a piece of tinfoil that we stole from one of the cabins. That was basically what was in our photo/video kit. Next up is the drone kit, and take it away, Chris.
Hold on, I need to moisten my lips before I talk about the drone kit.
While he moistens his lips, we'll talk about the vessel in which we carried the drone kit, which was the Peter McKinnon Nomadic travel bag, the big boy.
You need to moisten?
No, thanks. I moistened my lips before I came down here.
Short story, I initially wanted to consolidate the drone kit. I was really excited about the DJI FPV Drone because I thought it could cover both bases of a regular drone as well as an FPV drone and then the 20-minute battery life.
We wanted to take the best gear that we had,
right?
The least amount of gear that we needed that was necessary.
Right. So we bought the DJI FPV Drone, and that way I could only have one radio, one controller, one set of goggles, one drone, and it could hopefully do it all. The first flight was fine, but the second voyage, I don't know what happened. I still don't know what happened. And I reached out to DJI about it, and they weren't really able to help me with it. It just
like fell out of the sky and disappeared.
Yeah, it's just gone. Screen went blank, didn't return home. It had like 20 minutes of flight time on it.
Yes.
So it was a colossal waste of money. I abandoned that idea, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick to my tried and true homemade FPV drones that I've hand soldered myself. I took a 5-inch quad, which is an X-Hover blaster frame. It's basically their kit, a Cinewhoop, which is like a ducted sort of smaller quad. We'll link to the videos in the description box. There's one for each of those. Those have been upgraded with the DJI FPV goggles using their air unit, but it's like kind of the plug and play, like their air unit that basically allows them to use their radio, allows them to use their goggles, but it plugs into my own FPV drone. And then we took an old Mavic Air, which has its own radio, and that connects to your phone. So we had kind of a pretty big drone kit still. And then I had a ammo case that I used to store my LiPo batteries. The LiPo batteries are a little bit more volatile than, say, the batteries that come for another drone. That's another reason why we thought the DJI FPV drone was gonna fit the bill, was because they use normal batteries, just plug into a charger in the wall.
So instead of having one drone, we had 3 drones.
3 drones.
GoPros kind of go on your drones. Let's talk about the GoPro Kit for a second, because we can't film inside the helicopter or outside the helicopter while we're flying without our GoPro Kit, and that is one of the most important parts of the kit.
So we lean heavily on GoPros, not just for drones, but also for the filming in the helicopter. GoPro Kit, we're not using the newest ones. We use a Hero 6. We use a Hero 8. We had a old school GoPro Fusion.
We use that in the helicopter or in the front for the 360 stuff,
which we only used for the first day, and then
it's a real pain.
It's a pain.
It's a pain in the ass.
It's a lot more work in post having to put it all together. Yeah. And then we had a Hero 5 session that we had as a backup GoPro, which I think we actually used on the boat in episode 2.
We did.
I've got an adapter that goes in line between our helmets and the audio system in the helicopter, and it basically just sends a feed that goes into the GoPro. GoPro audio adapter has always been finicky.
Yeah.
And we've got a setup that works now. We're just going to leave it.
This is a theme of us. We got something that works that we like. We just leave it.
Don't mess with it.
A7S II, 5 years.
Oh my God. We used it from 2016 all the way till
we got the A6400.
Yeah.
And even then we still used it.
As far as the mounts are concerned for the GoPros, we have just the standard accessories. For the helicopter itself, we have, I think the company's called Flight Flicks. One of the mounts goes on the tow ball, which is like almost like a little mini trailer hitch that's on the nose of the helicopter. Underneath, you can use to cart it around if you have a special tow cart, which we don't. So we use it for a GoPro mount. And that gives us all those first person FPV style sweeping shots that are done with the helicopter.
If you watch Heliscapes, that's how we get all those shots.
Correct. It's a tow ball mounted GoPro. And inside the helicopter, we've got a similar sort of vibration dampening mount that mounts on the center rib. And that's what we use usually for the Fusion. If you see a GoPro looking back at us, the helicopter, when we bought it, had a RAM ball bolted to the console. And so
Which is perfect because we use RAM mounts a lot inside the helicopter, so we had pieces.
And that's pretty much the entire GoPro setup for us.
Yeah, we have a couple of rogue little attachment points. There's one on your helmet. I think we brought the chest strap.
Actually,
it was
a head strap that I thought was the chest strap, and then I wanted a chest shot, so I squeezed myself into it.
Accessories, we kind of kept it real simple this time. We went with the Zhiyun Weeble 2 for our gimbal. We love that gimbal because it has that back handle. We did a whole video on it, link up here. We actually really love it. We took the Peak Design tripod. We just have one tripod with us. We really like to do tripod shots. I think that tripod shots are underrated.
Definitely. And especially because we don't use a fluid head tripod.
No.
This is just, I think it's more
I love a stationary shot.
It's more of a photo tripod anyway.
With Peak plates on every single camera, every mounting
capture
point.
Clips.
We had the Peak capture clip on the camera bag, which I use often. We brought 2 laptops. I brought my old ass 2018 Mac Pro, which cannot handle any editing. And you took your Razer Blade 15.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I took care of the drone dumps and the GoPro dumps, and Becky
I took care of all the A7S III and the A7R4.
It was a good division of labor.
It was perfect.
I started stabilizing a lot of the GoPro clips, like the FPV clips or the helicopter nose cam clips. I started stabilizing those ahead of time, so they were ready to go by the time we got home and ready to edit.
On top of that, we talked about having a card reader. We had our external hard drives. Each of us had one. We brought an Octagon power bar, which is really key when you're going to hotel rooms if there's 1 or 2 outlets, but you have 10 things to charge. And then we had a bag full of just different types of cables, dongles. We had USB-C, USB-A, USB-C dongle. We had mini USB. We had headphones just in case we needed them. We had lightning cable.
She had one pouch that had all of those in it. And then another pouch would be all the batteries.
Yeah. When we're doing trips like this and series like this, everything is so fast paced. Sometimes there's just not even enough time to change your battery. And when you're going through your bags in the middle of the night, or you're rushing trying to do something before you leave in the helicopter, everything is easy to find and it's easy to
Come on,
access.
Mick, we're going. Blades are turning.
Yeah. Oh, we also brought like a cleaning kit too for the sensor, which thankfully we did because we had a bunch of dirt on our sensor halfway through the trip. So we just did a quick cleanup. Lens cloths, few extra accessories. I wanted to be over prepared with cables because we've gone out before and been like, oh, we need to charge this, get the cable, and oh, we don't have the right cable, or we don't have the dongle to charge this thing.
Or like you bring one phone cable and it fails. And then you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah, so we kind of did a trial run before we went. So we knew we had cables for everything. And I don't think there was one point during the trip where we were like, oh, we forgot.
Yeah.
One thing.
Or we only have one of these cables we both needed at the same time or something like that.
Right. We had like a plethora of cables that we used often. And we also had a bunch of Sony battery chargers as well. I think we had like 3 of those. We're eating batteries with the A7S III when we're shooting videos. We're not with the A7R. I think I only changed my photo camera battery maybe once.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, you're going to use a lot more battery power shooting video. But you maybe only use one battery a day, like 1.5 maybe?
Yeah, probably 1.5 every single day. We don't film every second. We kind of have a pre-production plan where we know what we want to show and what we don't want to show, and we try to have a lot of downtime during those trips too, where we can kind of relax a little bit, because it is so go all the time that when you're doing all day shooting or all day traveling, it takes a lot out of you. Traveling in the helicopter, I know it looks a lot of fun, but it's actually a lot of work. It's very mentally taxing for Chris, and it's fun, but it's taxing on you. And there was one day where, I don't know, we must have flown 4 hours, and it was very turbulent and it was very hot, and we were exhausted by the time we got there because you were fighting gusts all day long. We were soaked because it was so hot, and I was shaking the whole time because I was nervous. So it's like you're pooped by the end of that. Now you got to film a video on top of it, you know?
You know, you don't feel like filming either. Like
you don't, you're so hungry and you're so sweaty.
And then you realize at the end of the day, there's a gap in the story, and you're like, oh
no.
God.
That's when the debriefs come in handy.
Oh yeah, fall back on the debriefs.
Yeah, all of the links for everything that we've listed with photos for some of the stuff is linked on our blog, beckyandchris.com/blog. You can find the post. It's probably what's in our camera bag heading east edition or something. We're going to be sharing a bunch of like guides and lists and things on our blog as well, based around this series. So again, huge shout out to MusicBed for sponsoring today's video. Thanks for being such a supporter of this channel, and thank you guys also for the support and love throughout the launch of the series.
When we do these series, it's really made possible by these sponsors. So by supporting them, you're supporting us. Yeah, because these really are passion projects when it comes down to it. So being able to have sponsors on board allow us to do these types of projects. So if you like seeing these sort of over-the-top productions that we try to do, rather than, you know, just the kind of one-off vlogs, then support our sponsors because they're supporting us.
Yeah. Also, if you like the music tracks that you heard in Heading East, we actually made a full playlist on MusicBed. So if you want to go and check it out, I'll leave that in the description box. It's our favorite tracks from the whole series.
Thank you, MusicBed, and thank you guys for watching. See you next one.
See you next one.
See you next one.
I'm cold.
See you next one. Really? I'm hot for once.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Don't fart. Did you?
I really tried.
Stop. Oh my God, Chris. Ow! My ass! My face.
Why did you yell my ass?
Because it was your ass. My head going in your hair looks glorious.
What is it?
Yeah, it's shampoo.
It's freshly washed.